She's gonna go have a listen in the conservatory.
There you
Love
go.
it.
Well, we're
Hey.
live. Hello, everybody.
Hello to whomever is
Cheers.
watching on this
I'll just.
interesting Sunday evening.
I didn't even know if I wanted to do this, to be honest, after the incident. So
Ooh, clumsy oaf.
I don't think clumsy is the right word for it. Like, I don't think it was with intent. Obviously, speaking of the injury to Raul, but just sick to my stomach. Like, I didn't celebrate for any goals. I think it was like 83 minutes to go, I decided it would be nice to get the win. But I was just distraught because I made the mistake of going back and watching the highlight because I didn't see it live and they didn't show the replay while they were down for 10 minutes.
They haven't showed any replays at all.
The sound, it was like a fake.
The sound you heard very clearly when it happened.
Like a fake punch in the movies, but this was real and there was no crowd there to silence
no crowd.
that.
There was no crowd to react to what. Yeah, it was an act. It's one of those moments which could just make you sick to the stomach. And it's obviously the second bit of horrendousness I've seen today with Romain Grosjean's horrifying crash at the Bahrain Grand Prix, which he somehow managed to walk out of despite a barrier basically tearing his car in half and then causing it to burst into flames. But luckily the survival cell in that particular case got him away. But tell you what, for Raul, that could have been so much worse, considering that was a direct oomph by a player who's well known to get stuck in.
He's clumsy. He does reckless challenges all the time. He's known for reckless challenges.
He is, always has been.
He's gone careering in way too late.
At 100 mile an hour.
Yeah, in no control, eyes shut, head down, and clattered him. And okay, I'll give the ref the pass that. Okay, you might not have seen it like that, but this is exactly what VAR is for. And you could clearly I'm only going from stills and watching it in real time, but he was late, and the stills show him head down, eyes closed, hand in, gouging his bloody mouth at the same time. VAR sees nothing.
Yeah. The fact that there wasn't at least a yellow card for that is astonishing. I can get the ref a little bit in the senses of it was a challenge in which obviously Luis came off modestly bad with him having a little bit bad with him having to have his head wrapped up and then him being substituted. But there's still no excuse for that in real time to have then been dealt with, knowing that it was.
What annoys me is people saying that
he had to go straight to hospital.
There's people being super fans and I'm so bloody humble, saying it's just a clash of heads. Take your rose-tinted glasses off. No, it was a clumsy challenge. Well, I remember a couple of seasons ago, Danny Bart won the ball and got sent off for what was considered an excessive challenge, and yet this
didn't even get a yellow card.
Nothing.
Words fail me.
It was just.
It's that time of the chat for my American football comparison where they wear helmets. By the way, that would have been an automatic ejection and at least a 4-game suspension for the offending player. But where I don't know if you've heard news. I know he had consciousness.
Yeah.
In the hospital, that was the last I've heard.
I think that's the only thing that's been said in which he was conscious and responding to treatment in hospital.
And obviously, we're not doctors, and it'd be irresponsible to say anything at this point. But I would say that if you like, I was texting David during the match, like if you see him play again, it's a win, and that's it. There's no timetable. Like you just hope to see him on the field again. I would absolutely agree. I would suspect, considering the severity of the hit, that he's going to be out for a while. And I did see a picture on Google Images of him. I think supposedly showing a fair bit of blood across his face, which sadly wouldn't surprise me in only impact. But if he's responding and he's conscious and the fact he's alive,
makes it a second miracle for today. With, as I say, after the horrible, yes, it was a 53G impact for Romain Grosjean in the Grand Prix, but he had a survival star around him. Rao doesn't. Footballers don't, and that's a thing in which I think people have got to really be conscious of in such a situation and really take into account, knowing it was full blown, no protection, bang. If that was a bit more forced, then God forbid what we could be
Well, the thing is,
speaking here about.
you'd have more sympathy for it if it was actually when the ball was there, but it was that late. The ball wasn't even there. It's
Exactly.
just ridiculous. It's so badly timed, yet it's just waved. Oh well, he stayed down probably stayed down as long as possible to make sure, because he knew, and you could see on his face, he knew what he'd done after he'd done it. And the worst thing is, it's not the first time he's done this.
And knowing David Luiz's reputation, it won't be the last. Whether it has been a headbutt or whether it has been a near leg or shin breaker, he is one of those. He is one of those defenders who probably gets stuck in and causes consequences, and that for us maybe could be consequential on our season dramatically. And we know exactly who to blame and where to send a postcard to.
But then saying that, I mean, we go past that, and we're on the old refereeing decisions, and Traore gets booked for diving.
When that in reality, again, should have been a penalty.
I mean, it looks like he just fell down to me. Like he tried to jump over his leg and he fell. I don't think it was a dive. I don't think enough contact
it was never a dive. That yellow card should be rescinded first thing as soon as they get back to work, if they can rescind yellow cards. It was a clear and unambiguous clip of the ankle.
There is a still. I've been shown a still of it, and the guy and the still, it's got the other. Who was the defender?
Kieran Tierney, I think, down that left-hand side in the second half. The Scotsman.
The Brazilian guy. Oh, what's his name? Anyway, him. His foot actually on Adama's.
Yeah. On another day, that could have easily been a penalty.
Okay, if you decide it's not a penalty, it's certainly not a dive, and it's certainly not a yellow card for diving. I mean, actually, in real terms, it's actually a penalty. It's as clear a penalty as you're going to get. He's trodden up. He's lunged in. Dharma's tried to go around him. He's basically trod on his foot, which just took him off balance.
Yep.
Well, it's pretty clear cut for a VAR official, but Andre Mariner.
But Andre Mariner being Andre Mariner, and his bias towards the top six, which is beyond.
The Villa fan, Andre Mariner.
Aren't Wolves top six?
I don't think that makes a difference, but.
Well, Alec. You are definitely right on that one, because we do, as you say, after then what turned into I think a very decent performance on the whole. I think obviously which we now get into, we are indeed sixth place, 17 points, 4 points off the top of the Premier League, 10 games in. This has turned into this could turn into a very exciting season. And obviously the thing that I'm sure will please all of us is the way we set up tonight. Even despite the injury, which of course fingers crossed that it isn't extremely bad, that we are able to that the way in which we set up tonight was perfect. Left Arsenal's defence exposed with some absolutely menacing attacking play by all. I don't think Fabio was too bad for a debut, particularly in terms of playing in such a situation. No way he had to bring on, and then a lot of pressure come on to him. Didn't think his the way in which he's held the ball was all right. But of course, Adama, Pedro, and Daniel superbly doing their jobs going forward. Both goals were sublimely taken, brilliantly taken, with the intent and the sheer the sheer attacking prowess we had. And the fact they both have come in the first half. I think actually we've done is we've actually scored. Trying to think, I think we might have actually scored more in the first half, or we're almost on level terms in terms of what we scored in the first half and the second half this season. trying to think back to obviously 2 against Sheffield United. Didn't we score 1 against Crystal Palace, or am I dreaming? Did we score both of those in the second? I can't remember. But it is, if we're able to set up like that and really go at teams as we did, then we can pull off those kind of results. Of course, it was disappointing defending wise for Arsenal's equaliser. Marcel did get caught out a bit. And of course, it would have been nice not to have gone defensive for the last 20 minutes. But it's the way in which Nuno wants to close out games. And in this case, we did good enough. We did a good enough job.
I think it was a little too defensive. I mean,
yes,
there's changing it and being a bit more cautious, and there was that. That was
probably a bit too.
That was conceding possession far too easily at times.
It was.
I mean,
it was.
Okay, yeah, we still had breakaways and stuff like that, but it's such a risky game, that is, especially with a 1-goal lead. It only takes one mistake the other end, or a set piece or something like that. I'll be honest, what I'd rather have seen, if we're going to close the game out and do that, is if we're bringing the extra players on, putting them in the middle, just keep the ball.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. He says as if it's dead easy, but make that the tactic. Just hold on to the ball. You don't have to go howling forwards, but hold on to the ball. Don't pass it along the back. Don't boot it just up and hope that Adama might run onto it or Neto might run onto it.
You don't like sitting there terrified for 30 minutes at the end of every match?
I've got high blood pressure as it is. I don't need any extra stimulus to put it any higher. It's just
no, particularly knowing how Besiktas turned out. Not Besiktas. I mean, the Olympiacos in the last 16, which caused every single element of all 10 of my fingernails to be gone. Frankly, it was stressful.
That we were in the Europa League, by the way.
Continue. I know. I suppose it helped.
Pleasant memory.
I suppose, though, well, for most of that game as well, probably we forgot that Arsenal were playing. Arsenal played against. Arsenal were away on Thursday against Mold. Yes, they won against them 3-0, but clearly their travels again might have affected them. But we did what we needed to do. Therefore, when the chances came, it could have been a couple of more if Adama couldn't. In reality, should have done better with Fabio being very unselfish, putting the ball across.
I think Fabio should have shot there.
Yes. Absolutely.
He was in the better place to shoot, to be fair. But I'll go with he's a young lad who's just come in, big price tag, pressure.
35 million quid, yeah.
He's probably going to try and play a little bit safe at times, and knock it into sort of a more senior player. Okay, I'll give that.
I want to step in because I'd argue that Fabio was brilliant today, stepping in after that horrific injury, and just like, he didn't score, but he was there. His work rate was fantastic, and hits the strength to hold up the ball several times as well there before he went off. But just going in those circumstances, playing like he did, he would I want to give him man of the match. He's got my Carlsberg man of the match. But he's obviously Neto is going to end up being my guy today, as both of yours, and there's no other substitute. So let's get that out of the way now. But I thought he was. No,
you're right. Let's go with man of the matches now. I mean, as Neto plays for the end.
Neto.
But Podence and his goal and that little flick over that's just. The speed of thought and ability to do that and then score was great. And he was every time he'd take the ball, he'd knock it to someone and move straight away he'd be moving into space that you don't always see from every player. So he was always there to support. Neto and Traore, both at the end of the game, you could see were bloody knackered, but they carried on. And I think
carried on.
He was knackered, and then he did that run where he tried to take out everybody at the very, he was already gassed 2 times over, and he just sprinted in circles trying to catch up to the ball. It was brilliant.
The amount of headers that Traore won in midfield as well. He won a lot of balls in the air.
He ran a lot. He won a lot of balls in midfield. In all honesty, it was and it was much that position is his natural position. Don't faff him around. Leave him there. And if we go with this 4-2-3-1, which I think could potentially be could potentially be now the system we should revert to, he could be really really effective. And he was tonight where he was able to drift in, make some very good runs. He should have scored when passed it to Fabio. And I say, as you mentioned, in terms of man of the match, in terms of getting out of the way, I'd probably say on the basis of play, definitely Pedro, for the way in which he just ran his heart out, and it was a very neat finish when it came to him, because very easily in those circumstances he could easily put that into row double Z. That could easily be floated straight over the bar and missed.
We've seen it in many games, haven't we, where there's been shots like there and they've gone into row
over into the stand and amongst the fans, but seriously, it'd be a very close second for Daniel when the flick over Gabriel for the goal was absolutely scintillating. It's exactly what we brought him in for, and he's beginning to he is really cementing every penny that we've paid for him, and I'm sure he's going to do much more of that within the other 28 games we have left. It was divine.
Secret here. I do feel that it's quite responsible that Pedro scored this evening, because I took him out of my fantasy football team deliberately for this very reason, because I felt that by having him in my team, I was hampering his progress at all.
Good man.
You can all thank me later.
I actually only left Cody. I left Cody on the bench actually, and that was a thought. I didn't think he would come back in terms of his fitness, but good to see him back. And again, I don't think he'd be put in a standard shift at the back, and obviously just doing what he needs to do as captain, and no doubt probably rousing the boys up. Particularly, I'm surprised if he roused the boys up, particularly at half time after, obviously within the 10-minute gap within the first half, because of course psychologically that must have been torture.
It was grim. You saw the look on everybody's face. Like Nuno was in tears. Like it was bad. Like I'm surprised that we had anything after that. Surprised that we won. And you don't want to think, it was a spark to play up to our potential, like attacking potential that we've been saying we'd have. But it really, like, you think that it kind of pushed us up into that gear that we've been missing.
Well, I thought we would always have shown signs that we were looking good like that. But like I say, it plays to the potential of we've got 4 very, very good forward players, and we've got some good defenders. So really, playing them all.
Yeah, exactly.
If we can find a way of playing them all, great. That's fantastic, because like we did, and it's nice. It's nice to see. The bit I didn't like was the last 20 minutes. Too early for me to be going that deep. Much too early. Much too early. Because there was a bit of pressure on us, but it was just a bit of composure, and we'd been back. There was spots in the game where that happened all the way through. I thought it was very early to be going that defensive and that deep. It really did. If
we were 5-0 up, then fair enough, completely understandable. Which on another day, say against another opponent, we could easily have been. But yeah, it obviously those make you extremely nervous. Knowing 1 goal in it, everything's still on the line. It is in the Premier League. It is worth 3 league points if you win. And that will probably, hopefully, Nuno will reflect on that one in terms of that decision making tonight. I don't think actually, though, saying that we didn't seem too bad going forward at that point, and maintain whenever we did come forward, did it fairly well when having only only Pedro and Adama going up at the end. But certainly gives flashbacks to Olympiacos and. No doubt everybody's blood pressure and the needing of a pacemaker. It did 20 minutes to go is not the greatest tactic. No, it is Arsenal. They have quality. It doesn't matter what you think. They did show it a little bit, and obviously towards the end they came forward. Just thank Evans in this case, they were able to just hold us firmly as we could.
Patricio
unlike
tried
against
his
Newcastle.
best to give it to them too.
Oh, I didn't fully catch what Rui did, but it seemed extremely dodgy, and thank heavens the lads got him out of jail.
Yeah, there was a bit of a calamitous few things going on there, and there was like.
It means as well, by the way, we've now condemned Arsenal to their worst start in since the Premier League came into existence.
Suck it.
And that win, by the way, is our first one away at Arsenal since September the 29th, 1979, when we beat them 3-2.
Was a good year.
That is a very decent, very decent stat to shout about.
I think the first year I actually saw Wolves play.
Well, 79-80. What a good season!
Young. I know.
What a good season! With sixth place in the league, win the League Cup against the champions of Europe at that point.
You wouldn't think it. Look at this youthful, fresh-faced hunk that you can see in this angle. But yes, I was alive then.
You've lived through some hard
back
times.
to the football. Hot takes. We haven't done the hot takes. We've been doing it a different way around. Yeah, let's do some.
Hot takes. I don't care how many goals Jota scores for Liverpool. Neto is better.
Oh.
Yay! Yeah, certainly better attitude, I think. There's my hot take. Did Jota have an attitude issue, which is why once he got on, he suddenly starts playing better again?
Yeah, good one. No, potentially. Considering he is obviously scoring for fun at Liverpool at the minute. Fair play, he's performing. We've got money's worth. My hot take. Oh, it's a tough one actually. No, the way in which tonight went, I maybe might stick my neck out and say that Pedro Neto, depending on how long Raul's absence is, but Pedro could be top scorer this season in terms of the squad, and that Fabio will score at least 6 goals this season, which I think for the price he was given and him not deciding it, I don't would be too bad knowing he's having to come off the bench. He's obviously still trying to mould in, and now we've got this completely unforeseen situation in which the main man is going to be out for, I'm going to suspect, a fair while. No one obviously knows the extent of the injury to his head. Obviously, let's hope it is not as
injury. It's a mental thing, isn't it? You know, that sort of injury like that can affect you mentally.
And it could easily finish people's careers. It means obviously now Fabio is probably going to be our main man, and we're going to have to bring maybe Corbino or whatever his name from the youth squad up onto the bench or what, and make use of them, or try and maybe bring back Patrick Cutrone, of which some there's been a fair bit of debate about. I don't know how he's performing actually. Maybe actually, although Rafa Mir actually is performing fairly well at Huesca in Spain, of whom he's got his feet under the ground actually this season by the sounds of it.
How's Bonatini doing at Grasshoppers? Is that where he is? I can't remember.
He is, along with Conor Ronan and one other Wolves lad, because of obviously Fosun buying them out over the summer, or Sky Sun's wife buying them out specifically. That's how that went. But it's I think he scored a few, but not too many, basically.
I really hope that Wolves invest in Austin FC so that I can get some of the Wolves guys on my end, just a few miles away.
I think that would be a wise move.
Do you know what? It would be good actually to see the club slowly expand. Now, obviously, we did get Grasshoppers, and obviously, our guy's gone on loan to there, which is decent. And sounds like Conor Ronan's enjoying himself a bit, and they're running away with the league, unsurprisingly, with the investment in which no doubt Fosun begin to put in over there. But maybe we should try to become a City Football Group-esque organisation in terms of Fosun's football portfolio.
I think, Alex, you need to put your proposal together and send it over.
And do
I'll
it.
see what I can do. I mean, they tried to do it with the Rapids. They sent over Jack Price and Joe Mason. Jack Price is doing very well. He's very popular. Joe Mason obviously didn't make it, but
No, I think his attitude is wrong for a footballer.
yeah, he's just for football in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he
Scored that screamer against Birmingham though. That was great.
Yeah.
But that's my one memory of Joe Mason that I still have. I'd have to go look up anything else.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I can't see. It'd be good. It'd be nice because could you imagine, say, a Wolves back team and say the MLS? That would be cool. And again, it would expand our reach. And knowing the way in which City have been able to buy City Football Group own like 8 clubs, including, of course, New York City.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, aren't we? Trying to emulate
Austin's full team name?
Austin FC. I don't know.
So you could add Wolves at the end of it.
Yeah,
Austin.
We call them the Trees because they have the crest has a tree on it, and they're trying to pretend that they already have a storied history, and really it's just it's a tree.
They're joining MLS next year.
The stadium is like 2 miles away from me, so I would actually get to see Wolves players. So it's a dream, but
I think
crazier things have happened.
This is a plan. That get it sorted.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Try.
If we can,
I'll try.
And that bit is crying out. Actually, I think for a big football team. Knowing that there's only knowing that they're only going to be knowing that they're going to become, I think it's the 21st franchise or what in
Austin being such a cool place and all, all these people moving away from LA coming down to Texas.
Indeed, moving from the West Coast towards Midwest.
It is true. That's why Texas is going to be a Democratic state pretty soon. In which case, there is no path to the White House for a conservative presidential candidate because Texas and California is almost 100 votes.
Indeed.
That silly little game we play to decide our president. So
I've said, though, I still think Texas will be a separate country soon.
You still think Texas will go in? Well, that would mean the MLS is in a bit of tatters.
I mean, a lot of things.
There we are. I mean,
the MLS is in Canada too, so.
Oh yes, of course. No, you're right. They of course with Toronto and with Vancouver Whitecaps and where else. But it is fascinating to see these football groups, and it'd be nice if Wolves could get a stranglehold in the States. Knowing the way in which Rao has obviously cemented himself in Mexico and got such a huge fan base in South America from that bit of North America.
Wolves were going to come here this summer. I can't get over it. Wolves were coming to Texas this summer, and it was robbed from me.
And then of course that annoying virus, which means we are in other news back in these localized restrictions as of next week. The highest possible restrictions means still no one is going into Molineux, which is a huge shame.
Well, I was hoping they would just move all their Premier League games across to Telford United, as I can see Telford United just out the window.
But of course we've moved down to Kiddie in terms of the youth games. Kidderminster Harriers and Agborough, which will be in Tier 2, but I'm not sure what the Premier League and Worcestershire's leaders will think of it, knowing that the advice is for folks who live in Wolverhampton or live in, say, a Tier 3 area to not leave the place, not go into Tier 2 unless it's for work.
Is that how you say it? Worcestershire? Say that again. Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Nobody knows how to say that in America. So
having been born at the old Worcester Hospital, which was Bordeaux many years ago, and having Worcestershire blood, that is the way you pronounce it. If people only know it for its source, it's a much bigger and better county than that.
Sorry, that's all I know. That and
its sauce though is very good. Its sauce is gorgeous. But I do hope that the cases are coming down, which is the good news. It is beginning to still stable off. I do fear though that with this break over Christmas, it means there's going to be another lockdown at some point in January or February, and then all the hard work and the hope of fans back in grounds will probably go to dust. We will see, obviously, when it comes to it, but just let's hope we can get fans on seats, and it is encouraging that there'll be 10 clubs who do, of which will include Arsenal, ironically, because all of London are in the second tier, which means basically if you don't know the systems in terms of how they're going to work from this week, Alex, essentially those in tier 1, which there's no one in the Premier League, they can have 4, but for football in general or sporting events in general, for those authorities in tier 1, areas in tier 1, they can have 4,000 fans at a stadium outdoors. And that's the medium tier. The high tier, which is tier 2, they can have 2,000 fans at grounds, and then tier 3, which is very high, spectators are banned. So we are, and all of the West Midlands area, the combined authority area, the conurbation, which is Wolverhampton and 6 others, which makes up most of the West Midlands.
Just to be sure, you guys are also the country that subsidized people getting together in restaurants just a few months ago, right?
Yep, indeed we were.
Yeah. At least we're owning it and just saying everybody go die. It's at this point that's you have to make light of it because it's so absurd. It's gonna be a nightmare in a couple weeks here. The hospitals are already overflowing. If nurse, I'm not reading the news, I'm talking to my nurse friends and they are worried to death. So
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the slightest with it, and I genuinely maybe obviously I know the president-elect said he doesn't want a shutdown, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they have no choice. If he has no choice at some point, knowing if your health service gets completely overwhelmed, as ours was on the brink of being overwhelmed, then maybe that will have to be the case. But at least we say again the figures here in the UK have gone down again, which is positive. I think it is beginning to slowly. Yeah, it is a downward trajectory. And then let's hope that's the case. I'd say in this city, because I think the sooner that fans are able to be back on seats, the better. That's why actually on Friday night into Saturday, actually mentioned to everybody who took part that the second annual Molyneux Sleep Out was virtual. I, in fact, did mine on my bedroom floor. I was going to do it outside, but I got 2 dogs in the house, so I didn't want them to say with a tent. But it was virtual. Did it in the bedroom. Did it on a rock solid floor on a bit of cardboard with my sleeping bag. And so far, I think 13 grand or so has been raised for the Good Shepherd Ministry, which basically is a food bank and a hostel for those in need, which is absolutely phenomenal. And it meant waking up to Steve Bull yesterday morning, which was very nice indeed over a Zoom call.
Was it very nice and slightly creepy at the same time?
I can understand, but still, it was half an hour. Johnny Phillips interviewing Steve Bull. It was a very decent way to start a Saturday morning and say such huge amount of money being raised for such an amazing cause. The Good Shepherd is basically one of Wolverhampton's most well-respected food banks and hostels to help people, and the support they give in general is top class. And they say that figure, that just given page is open until end of the year, so no doubt that figure will go up. And aiming to be at Molyneux next year, once it is safe enough. And I think people are predicting that we could probably get several thousand in potentially, which would be amazing. But that's one very good highlight in terms of Wolves this week. Shout out to everybody who took part. As say, everybody needs help and support at this point, and such support by what many folks did was brilliant. Just as satisfying as the 3 points tonight, because as I say, 6th in the Prem, 4 points off the top after 10 games. Maybe I suppose I could dig another hot take on the table, and that is we will get Europe this season. I don't know which competition, but if we play like we did tonight, then it's absolutely not out the question. And say no, we've just, in fact, this season is absolutely wild because if I look at the table, in fact, it's like between Palace standing 15th and Spurs who are top, it's 8 points. 8 points separating 15 of the 20 teams.
It should be fun to watch down the stretch, especially when Wolves are 2 points off the first place with just 2 games to go.
And Jimenez back and Hayden.
Lead over third.
What'd you say?
A 15-point lead over third.
Of course, that goes without saying.
Yes, but no, it is exciting that we're in such a position at the minute, and it's also a good record in London continues. Even obviously we lost the last 2 against Chelsea in last season and West Ham back in September. Still, we've a phenomenal record in the capital since promotion continues as well, of only having lost those 2.
Well, the thing is, if you look at it, if we get the same sort of consistency we've had in the last 2 seasons over the latter half of the season, and with the rest of the league being so close, it's very realistic that we would be in the top 4. That's not being ridiculous or pie in the sky. That's just looking at the cold hard facts. Our latter half, if we do the same as we normally do, the latter half is usually pretty good, fairly consistent. And if everyone else stays everyone's beating each other and it's all really tight, that consistency is what will put you at the top.
And
the consistency is what will win.
And who can say this in a sense? We're 4 points off the top, and in theory, we're in the title race.
Yeah.
We're in the title race, which is
absolutely
absolutely balmy. But as I say, 14 other teams are also in the title race at the minute as well, with it being as
that is also true, yes, but
as balmy. Although I know Brighton as well dragging themselves away from trouble with another very decent performance on the weekend yesterday against Liverpool. So they've gone 5 points clear of 5 points clear of Burnley, who are in 18th. I think it looks like it's going to be a 4-way relegation scrap at the minute between those down the road who beat the Blades, which is a shame. Obviously, having been to Sheffield and back during uni times, but it seems like it's going to be Albion, Burnley, Fulham, and Sheffield United trying to survive with all their with their entire trying to survive, which doesn't surprise me somewhat. And obviously, it'll be for the West Mid. It'll be nice for Alvin to stay up, but of course, as a Wolves fan, it would be very nice to see them slip through back the trapdoor. But it's going to be such a fascinating rest of the season with it being so close after at the quarter of the way mark. I don't think I've seen it this tight for a long time in the Premier League. This could get wild. The fact that Spurs are top of the league.
It's all Doherty.
It's Jose Mourinho doing Jose Mourinho's second season. He knows his stuff.
Well, what's next on the docket, Bod?
I think predictions for the next game.
We are Liverpool, which is 7:15 as well next Sunday, which is a bit much closer after the Grand Prix. So it'll be the Grand Prix and then the game, which would be nice. Liverpool, Amazon Prime as well. We've got 3 games on Amazon Prime next month, by the way.
That's good. I've got Amazon Prime.
Which for Amazon Prime users in the UK are free. If you have your subscription, it costs no extra, which is nice. Again, maybe I think another hot take could be that Amazon will get a load more rights in the next rights auction, or that there'll have to be some sort of agreement, or that particularly because of the audiences on Amazon and then the BBC. From the few games the BBC are getting to show that there'll be that Sky and BT will lose their grip a bit but we'll have to see whenever that is held next year.
Amazon can afford to buy the Premier League like 10 times over, so they might as well just do that and show all
Jeff
the games.
Bezos is like the second richest man, Jeff Bezos, I think, is now the second richest man in the world. I think he overtook Bill Gates this week, if I saw rightly, on this weekend. Liverpool at Anfield. Liverpool in a bit inconsistent form at the minute in terms of league-wise. It's obviously bobbing up and down. It's obviously the Jota derby. It could get very interesting with obviously him wanting to show why he left and why Liverpool paid 45 million for him.
He'll get a penalty. I'll give him that. He'll get a penalty. Guaranteed. He'll drop to the floor like a fly and get a penalty.
Yeah, cool. Ooh, with the way in which VAR has been operating, and referees as demonstrated tonight. But if we come out and play the way we did, I can't see why we couldn't get at least a draw. Obviously, it's against the champions who last season were absolutely out of this world. It will be tough. When Liverpool are on their A game, they are pretty impressive. But as I say, held against Brighton yesterday. Pascal Gross did score in the last minute. I think was it a penalty? I'm not sure, but VAR not helping them neither. So this could get quite wild as it did in the first half in terms of 3 goals fairly quickly. And they have conceded a fair bit. In fact, they are still without Van Dijk. And they are without Van Dijk and I think Joe Gomez. It means we could exploit them at the back. And if Adama, Pedro and Daniel all come at trumps, as they did in that first half, then why not? Why not put that out on the table and say we could get and say another 2-1 win? Which, if we did, would be absolutely phenomenal, considering Arsenal away, Liverpool away.
I just because you're talking about Liverpool, I was just doing the Klopp impression.
You certainly got the glasses to match.
It's actually quite good. Sorry, I was distracted by the Chiefs fumbling the football away in the red zone.
Sorry, Cash. I'm
gonna go with at least a 2-2 draw. I think there could be lots of goals. In fact, we scored 2 tonight is good. And in fact, Liverpool have scored many, but also conceded a fair few. In fact, how many have they conceded so far this season? They've only got a +5 goal difference so far. So they have conceded. They've already conceded 17. When last season they conceded. Last season Liverpool conceded. Liverpool conceded 33. So within 10 games this season, Liverpool have already conceded half the amount of goals they conceded all of last season. So there's that we can absolutely exploit them. But knowing that they're good going forward means obviously they will probably score a few. But I'm going to go with a Desmond. I will go with a Desmond 2-2.
Well,
at least.
Nice.
Well.
And with Pedro to score at least 1.
As I was saying, Jota will get a penalty by dropping to the floor, and they'll score 1. But we will score 7. You heard it here first.
You've been drinking and been on the girls' pop, have you?
Maybe. No. Oh, actually, no. 7-1.
Well, Villa did.
I'll take it.
So who would have thought it'd be Aston?
Dicking.
Well, no, it was Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2. Anything is possible.
We definitely.
Clifford Klopp will be bleating to the media, having a go at whoever's interviewing him this week. In fact, he'll just be. If he loses 7-1, he'll be tearing his shirt off and threatening to and spoil it for a fight with the interviewer this week.
That's the same Klopp that complained 2 years ago that West Brom played in a game right before they got relegated. He thought that West Brom should have just sat down and taken the loss, right? That's that same guy.
How dare they play a defensive football against my team and spoil the game, so not play how I want them to play.
Well, good for Klopp. He's not gonna.
I did get things wrong, even though I won the title off the back of it last season.
He's not gonna have a defensive game on Sunday. So we know what Wolves will do, which is what they did today: counterattack a team that plays very open. And I don't know, but I would just we'll do a wager with the Jota Neto debate that I don't know exists outside of this phone call. Maybe it does. I don't know. But we'll say whoever scores the most goals out of those two wins. So I'll do 3-2. 3-2 Wolves with a Neto brace because that guy is football Jesus.
He's looking good. He's looking handy, Pedro. Absolutely. I can see why not potentially. But I think this could be a classic. Knowing that their first game against Leeds was wild. That first game of the season was a corker. The 4-3.
Awful. They'll be all trying to go forward, and they'll be kicking it out, losing the ball, and then we'll just turn around and go to the other end and score.
And then pop one in the net. Yeah.
One. So as I said, they'll get an early penalty, and we'll be so aggrieved by this terrible dropping to the floor that we'll teach them a lesson.
Yeah, maybe Fabio Silva will get the winning goal, and that would be nice.
He'll get a brace, Neto brace, Silva brace.
That'd be nice. You got plenty of braces going around.
One for Kilman, one for Traore, right at the end. How many is that? 6.
It's not off the rails at all.
I think a Neves free, a Neves worldie. We haven't seen one of them for a while, so I think we're around.
It was to stay an hour ago. Actually, that Jimenez Raul's head injury is being assessed with I think he's having an MRI at a London hospital, and they'll give more info when they have it. So it's a case of who knows when the next info comes through. But obviously, I think end tonight. Matt, best love to you, Raul. You absolute legend. Turn out full frontal, and I'm sure whenever take it easy once you've recovered, and hope it isn't anything detrimental to your career, because you're turning into an absolute legend, and horrifying, absolutely just gut wrenching to have seen what occurred. And but at least the lads did brilliant justice out on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, we do hope he gets better, because through no fault of his own, he's been basically knocked over by a complete oaf.
That could have been GBH in UK law easily.
He's just oafish, and no one seems to want to step in because he keeps doing it. There you go. Anyway, as an aside, at the end of this whole thing, just a thought. We had this idea about either sending a big message through one of these as best as get as many people on as possible. I don't know how easy that would be. Basically putting a Zoom inside a Zoom inside a Zoom so we can get loads of people into one, and then recording it and sending it off just as a message, because they all look a bit down, and having no crowd just gives a kind of double nice message to put. But the other option, which I thought was actually quite a genius one, especially as we're going to be going out of lockdown into this tier thing, was where if we just turn up before the game all in our cars, and then all sit outside the stadium when they're about to go, start blowing our horns in appreciation. So, because you can actually hear that on the pitch. So it's an actual thing. So I was wondering whether that, what do you think was that as an idea?
Be difficult to organize, but you'd want to get with Pumpkin on that probably.
Oh, I know, yeah. I'll give him a shout. But yeah, it's still...
Yeah, so if you can pull,
you're not breaking any lockdowny rules at that point.
No, providing you basically with your family or with someone from within your bubble, and if it's all fine if you with say someone from within your household or within your support bubble, you're absolutely fine. If you're out of it, then that's obviously where lines may cross. But with therefore Molineux, Waterloo Road, because of the circumstances, has been open on a match day. So cars have been going up and down it usually as usual. Usually it'd be closed on a match day, but it hasn't obviously been in the circumstances.
There's a lot of space. There's a lot of space.
And there's plenty of space. Plenty of space as well. Plenty of space around. Actually, round at the back of the steeple stand next to the amongst the labyrinth of university buildings and near the Asda. So there's a lot of room that can certainly be made use of.
it's also, isn't it, the game against Villa as well?
The next home one, I think, if I'm right, is Chelsea. After all the games were
I thought
confirmed.
it was against Villa. Oh, okay.
And let me quickly double check whilst I'm at it, just out of curiosity. Let me have a gander. Is it Villa or is it Chelsea? It is. No, you're right. It is Aston Villa. 12:30 kickoff on which is on BT Sport on Saturday, December the 12th. It is indeed. I don't know what the police would think about it, but we're obviously guaranteed for that one. There's going to be no fans in because of the restrictions being reviewed on December the 16th. So that could certainly be that could definitely be doable.
Well, you could always ask the police and say, look, this is what we're thinking of doing. We're all going to basically go up I've forgotten the road you just said.
Waterloo Road.
Waterloo Road. We go up the back of Waterloo Road behind a Steve Ball stand. We'll just be in all the cars up there, and then we're just going to blow our horns a lot. And then we're all going to go because we're going to want. Because most of the problem is we want to watch the match as well. So
absolutely,
I don't know how well it would work. It might be a well-intentioned complete mess, but it was just a thought.
It's a good thought. I think
Anyway,
we're exploring.
And with that thought, I think we could end it there, couldn't we?
Indeed.
Stopping point.
I'm down.
Cool. Well, we'll see you
Excellent.
all in the next game.
See you this time next week after Liverpool, which could be
All right.
fun.
After our massive 7-1 win.
We never
Let's
quite
go
know. It's the
Go
Premier League.
Chiefs.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.